The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Candace Owens having a conversation, just shooting the breeze with Hunter Biden, who represents one of the most corrupt men in American political history. And he's just making the rounds on allegedly conservative talk podcasts. It's really, really insulting to me. Well, I actually, you know who they should be sitting down with? Hunter Biden should be sitting down with Marco Polo, the great organization founded by my friend Garrett Ziegler. This man has been pursuing the truth about so many topics, especially the Bidens, and he's paid a price for it, oh, by the way. Garrett Ziegler, known to our cable news audience, and this show as well. Garrett, welcome back. How are you, sir?
Hey, I appreciate you having me, and it's insulting to me as well. The idea that Hunter's father wasn't the golden boy of the CIA. Hunter's talking about the CIA when a bunch of current and former spooks wrote a letter saying that his laptop contents had all the hallmarks of a Russian information operation. The only reason Hunter has clothes on his back is because of the CIA's protection of Joe for 30 years.
It's incredible. Now, forgive me, I'm kind of burying the lead here. I did actually quote you extensively earlier. You have uncovered amazing information regarding the Bill Stevenson case. Bill Stevenson was married to Jill Biden. We all know the story about how he came out against the Bidens. He told the truth about how they really met. He documented the lawfare that was waged against him, kind of a prelude to what happened to President Trump. Right now, Bill Stevenson is in jail, accused of murdering his wife. And one other fascinating component here, both you and me, we have both met Bill Stevenson. We've sat down with him. We talked to him and the wife, Linda. Tell us, if you would, just what kind of precarious situation he's in regarding conflict of interest in that very tiny state of Delaware.
Well, the incredible thing is that Joe's tentacles reach deeper than perhaps any senators for any state in U.S. history, and that includes, Richard Shelby and all these folks like Richard Russell in the South who served for 30 years. Basically, no one has dug into this because the news media just jumped on the story that he got arrested. But we still, to this day, even left-leaning outlets like Chris Barish have admitted that we know absolutely nothing about the case. And the little that we do know is extremely concerning. Let's start off with the person that decided that Bill would not get bail. And that is a quote-unquote commissioner named Lynn Parker. And Lynn Parker is married to one of Joe's close political friends and allies, whose name's Charlie Oberly. And Charlie Oberly has been the U.S. attorney in Delaware. He's been the former AG in Delaware. He's been the Democrat nominee for the U.S. Senate in '94, and Joe campaigned for him. He would have been Joe's colleague, basically the junior partner for the state of Delaware. And so this is, of course, not surprising, but it just goes to show how brazen this is. They're really expecting nobody to write about this. And if it were not for you and me, nobody would. Nobody, not a single outlet in the United States has even asked for anything more than the one-page indictment. You know, all they're saying is that Bill Stevenson did knowingly cause the death of his wife. But there's no evidence presented in any of the charging documents. So, you know, one of the key ideas of the United States is that we're not to trust the government at its word, because governments are made up of sinful beings. And so all you and I are doing is looking under the hood and trying to figure out whether Bill is getting the constitutional protections that he's afforded as a citizen of the United States. One of those is not only an impartial jury of his peers, which will happen if he doesn't take a plea deal, which I hope he doesn't, but also that he has a, quote, effective assistance of counsel. I'm looking at the Sixth Amendment here. And the effective assistance of counsel requires that anybody representing you is impartial. And so not only do you have the commissioner who decided to set his bail at $500,000, and he's not a wealthy man, but the person one of the state-funded lawyers representing Bill is a guy named Ross Flockersy. And just like the Lynn Parker fiasco, Greg, his wife has a different last name. And Ross is married to a woman named Misty Siemens, who is the sitting governor's chief of staff, Matt Meyer. And Matt Meyer is very close with Joe. All of these names I'm talking about, they have been with Joe privately in person for hours. They fundraised together. And so I'm sure you mentioned this at the start of the program, but that 2022 hot mic incident with the mayor from Florida about how no one F's with a Biden, and by the way, I forgot to tell you last week when we spoke that the mayor of that Florida town, Fort Myers, received a copy of our book a week after Joe said that because it pissed me off so much, man. I hate that. I hate that because it said nobody F's with a Biden. Well, right now they're basically his buddies have been, I don't want to say judge, jury, and executioner because Bill is still very much alive, but they have gamed the system right now. Joe's allies are deciding whether he gets bail, and then are the people helping him in this case. You know, all we want right now is for Bill to get this information. And I guarantee you Bill knows about Charlie Oberly. Whether or not he knows Charlie's married to Lynn Parker, because these women have different last names, so it's not, it's not apparent. You have to have access to newspapers.com or PI databases to figure out, hey, these people are all living together. And one protection that's in the United States that's not in every country is spousal immunity. You cannot be forced to testify about conversations you have with your spouse. And so we'll never know whether or not they're sharing. I know they're prohibited by professional rules of conduct, but you know the left. Nothing is prohibiting them from just sharing all the case information with their spouses. So that was a monologue, but that is all news. Not a single outlet in the United States has picked up on this. And I hope to go see Bill in person. Like you've said many times on the air, I don't know what occurred, but I do know that Bill's a U.S. citizen and he's entitled to effective assistance of counsel and an impartial judge.
Well, amazing work, Garrett. And let's go through a couple of things and reemphasize. Yes. Oberly, former U.S. attorney. Now, that is a very big deal. So the commissioner who presided over the bail hearing is married to a former U.S. attorney who was essentially appointed by Joe Biden. Joe Biden was vice president at the time. And this is the top prosecutor in all of Delaware. They're friends. They're close. And I want to read something to you that I discovered that was said when Oberly was actually being sworn in. Biden could not be there. He was actually on the other side of town doing jury duty, which I'm sure was just a photo op. Hey, look at me. I'm Joe Biden. I'm showing up for jury duty.
I would not want him on my jury.
He called the new federal prosecutor. He welcomed him as a partner in law enforcement. Welcome to my friend and new partner in law enforcement. Now, it's very interesting. This is all the way back in 2011 or so. And Joe and the Democrats now have been seized with the DOJ is independent. The DOJ must be independent, as if it's his own branch of government. Now, here's Joe Biden saying, like, this is the way things work. You and I are partners. That right there tells you something. Yes,
and you know what the insider the Bidens never expected Hunter to be so high as to forget his laptop at a repair shop. But what that lawful leak shows us is insider chatter amongst the family. Once Obama announced that Charlie was getting appointed, Missy Owens, Joe's niece, Valerie, his best friend in the world, Joe's best friend in the world is his little sister, Valerie. She ran all the Senate campaigns, 36 years. They know everything about each other. Valerie's oldest daughter, Missy, who was a lobbyist for GM, Electric Motors division when her uncle was the president. Missy emails the entire family and says, it's official now. So what does this mean? This means the whole family helped install Charlie Oberle. If Charlie's listening to us right now, and I'll be sure to send him an audio version of this, he knows now that we know that he owes his job as U.S. attorney, who, as you know, is the highest ranking executive branch official in that state, has the power to impanel a grand jury, has access to all of the investigative case files that the FBI has, et cetera. So they're very close. So if I'm devil's advocate and I say, Garrett and Greg, of course they're Democrats in Delaware, they know each other, that would not explain Missy Owens sending an email to the entire family once the White House press release came out in 2010 that Charlie Oberle was going to be the new U.S. attorney. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that Charlie went out on a limb in June of 2024 and wrote this op-ed defending Hunter Biden, saying the prosecution of him in Delaware was unwarranted. So they're still close. And I guarantee you Joe feverishly sent that op-ed to everybody in his circles back in Delaware. Hey, this former U.S. attorney, he's going to leave out the part that he helped install him.
Right.
This former U.S. attorney says the prosecution of my boy, who's done no wrong, is unwarranted. So this is somebody who has spent and he wrote that op-ed, by the way, before Joe was cooed by his own party. So that could have been, hey, Joe, look at this. I'm sticking my neck out. If you get reelected again, remember me when you need a new appointment for Delaware after David Weiss gets claimed. Yeah,
totally.
I don't want to be cynical because I think cynicism borders on sinfulness, but you could argue that Charlie was writing that op-ed and taking that public position to signal to Joe that he's willing to go to the mat for the Bidens.
So I want to read you something that I wrote to Ross Flockersy, the defense attorney, once I was able to track him down. This is all the way back in February 18th. And this is what I wrote him. Sir, Greg Kelly here. I'm a friend of Bill and I want to help. He's been a guest on my programs many times to speak about the Biden family. I fear that they may have contributed to his current problems, the interviews, but I don't know anything. Can we please talk? There is an attorney I know who may be able to help. So he writes back 3 weeks later. Good evening, Mr. Kelly. Thank you for your email. Ms. Phillips and I represent Mr. Stevenson, and we were waiting to speak with our client before responding to you. That's quite a long time. They weren't in touch, by the way. We met with Mr. Stevenson, and he was very happy to hear you reached out. He asked us to tell you that he misses you and how much he appreciates your friendship. As this case is in the early stages, we would ask that a meeting between the two of you not occur at this juncture. We are available to remain in contact as the case proceeds. We will do everything we can on behalf of Mr. Stevenson. How does that strike you? Does it strike you? Am I being overly cynical?
So you're talking to somebody who took the LSAT. If my wife didn't get pregnant, I probably would have went to law school. And I hate lawyers. And one of the reasons why, as a general class, not every single one of them, about 85% of them, because that's just lawyer talk. That's gobbledygook. My father runs a water treatment plant, and that stuff causes him to pull his hair out of his skull because it's treating you like an LLM. You're not a large language model. You're a human. And, of course, he wants everything in writing so he can, prove that he didn't. But basically, he is shielding Bill, in my opinion. That's an opinion. But if I'm him, and I know how big of a megaphone you have, Greg, and I want to zealously represent my client, I'm trying to facilitate a meeting ASAP because you're the only one who's come forward to care about him. I mean, you and I are friends with him on Facebook, Bill. He has 5,000 people. It's really divided right now. There's nobody sticking their neck out and just asking basic constitutional questions. Hey, if he did murder his wife, number one, it's totally out of character considering I had dinner with them both Linda and Bill. And number two, he should suffer the consequences. But guess what? We have nothing to go off of now. And if I know anything about Delaware, I'm not trusting the word of Delaware law enforcement without any other corroborating evidence.
Totally. So that's how this letter struck me. He's seeing people. It's very lawyerly. It's a CYA memo. He also does something interesting. He denies me a meeting, but I didn't ask for one. I did not ask to meet Bill in the previous message. I asked to talk to him. Yeah, it's just he's so there's a lot here.
What a guilty conscience.
Wow, that's a great way to put it. So look, you and I are going to do our best to get the word out. Now we do have this situation with there is a lazy, dumb media class in America. I love my conservative brethren, but too many of them, quite frankly, hang around and wait to complain about crap they saw on The View or crap they saw on CNN, and quite frankly, not lift a finger to pursue the truth. They'll make fun of others lying, but they don't do the dogged work that you are now famous for, Garrett Ziegler, Marco Polo. Tell us a little bit about Marco Polo, if you would, your organization.
Well, I appreciate the compliment, and to that end, though, I want your listeners to know that we are getting the court documents. So Delaware, as everybody knows, is notorious for for shell companies and making things hard to peer into. A normal citizen cannot find criminal case information online. So I'm sending somebody to Wilmington to actually get the case file. And this isn't just any crime, as you know, Greg. This is murder. If this was just a civil case or Joe harassing him with taxes again, that's one thing. But they're going to want to lock him up for life, and so we're finally getting that. That's the news, is that we're going to get that by at least early next week. So that will provide more information. With regard to Marco Polo, this is the kind of thing we do. It's not glamorous. Most of my day is spent inside of databases, but as a good example, we had a breaking story yesterday. It's going to break nationally within 24 to 48 hours, but we broke it on X. We figured out, based upon a Judicial Council report that came out of the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, we figured out the identity of the federal judge who had sexual contact with a chief deputy of Atlanta PD in her office, and she got, quote unquote, privately reprimanded. So Judge William Pryor, the Chief Justice who was in consideration for a SCOTUS appointment, he's the Chief Judge over the 11th Circuit, which covers Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. Well, they released this report on the 22nd. Law 360 was the first. I love Law 360, although it costs us an arm and a leg to subscribe to it, like $4K a year. But they were the first one to break news of it. But guess what? They didn't do the hard work of figuring out who it was. And there's not very many people that it could be because they put a lot of detail in the report. So we figured out that and this is 1,000% true, that Eleanor Ross, who was appointed by Barack Obama in 2014, had sex with the chief deputy, one of the chief deputies of the Atlanta Police Department, in her chambers. And the only reason why you and I know about this is because the law clerk complained to the chief district court judge, who then started an investigation. So that report dropped on May 22nd, and all the judge is getting is a quote-unquote private reprimand. She has to write apology letters to the 6 clerks who heard her moaning. Again, not my words. These are in the report. And that's it. So we're the only group in the world to ID her, and we also ID'd through the report the chief deputy from the Atlanta PD, who hasn't been disciplined in any way. They figured out, based on security footage and time logs, that he was going over on his lunch break, fornicating with the district court judge, and then going back to the PD.
Yikes. I'm looking at her right now, and things are about to get real for her.
Yeah. I've been sending it to all these outlets, and of course they are, I'm usually very, very conservative. Like, we've never had to retract anything material, right? But once they put the dates of the officer's tenure in the report, we have it. It is 1,000% her. Now I have there's 350,000 people who've looked at our thread. But yeah, this is all going to come to the head. I'm trying to get her to resign.
Garrett Ziegler, excellent work. To be continued, my friend.